Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Anywhere you can find us, anywhere podcasts are available. RTPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, and RHOLM22 is Ryan. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. 5-star reviews, we love it all. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's we got a preseason game right around the corner. I looked at the calendar today, didn't realize how close it was. But my whole summer jumbles together, but it's good to know football's on the horizon.
Well, yeah. So I kind of like the Hall of Fame game that the Raiders are in the Hall of Fame game because it just means they start earlier, and you get to see them on the field earlier, and everything can get going really quickly. Just some of the news and notes for the fans about what's going on with everything going on with training camp. So starting at right tackle, number 75, Brandon Parker. It just kind of seems, the more and more we kind of look at it, he got signed. It just looks like he's going to be the starting right tackle. I mean, I'm not sure, but obviously it's early right now. If things look like, if Leatherwood does play, he'll play on the inside. Maybe, I'm not sure. It looks like from what you're reading from the Tashawn Reeds of the world and everybody else, this kind of seems like Brandon Parker's going to be the starting right tackle here for the Raiders coming up this season.
Yeah. My take on it is they're giving it Parker the chance now. I think they're making Leatherwood earn it. They don't want him to just come in and hand it to him. But Leatherwood's going to have to take it from him. He's going to have to show up, put the pads on. We're going to see Leatherwood play extensively in the preseason. I have a feeling like he's going to get a lot of snaps. But there seems to be a comfort level with Brandon Parker with the new staff, which to me, having watched this film for the last 3 or 4 years, it's hard for me to get excited about that, especially with this offense, because the one thing that can stop this offense is if the offensive line doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing there. So we have to see what happens as far as situation between Parker and Leatherwood. So I mean, Denzel Good took less money, and there's pieces there where Parham could be there, or you have somebody like Lester Cotton, who's getting some run right now. There's Simpson as well too. So a lot of different pieces there for the Raiders on the interior. What do you think? What are your thoughts about Denzel Good coming back from that injury, Cotton, and then you have John Simpson there as well?
Yeah, I think Simpson's probably the safest bet of the three to be a starter. It almost looked the way that they did the deal, that it was Denzel Good, take this pay cut or we might release you before camp. Because he took quite a sizable pay cut coming off an injury. And obviously he wants to be in Las Vegas and he wants to be a Raider, so he's willing to take that pay cut. I don't know how much run he would have got on the free agent market, seeing that he is just coming off an injury. But I wouldn't pencil him in to be a guarantee to make this roster at this point based on the pay cut he took, because it was a dramatic downgrade in pay for him. I know a lot of people think that, he's a really good player. I think when healthy, he's more in the average guard bucket. I don't think that he's spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a good player. Like, he can line up, he can play, and you could be okay there. But obviously, I think the Raiders think differently. And there was no guarantees left on that deal. They could have walked away from it and saved $4 million. The Raiders have cap room right now. They have, I think it's somewhere between 16 to 20 million. I haven't looked at it this week, but they did save a little bit of money with that good deal. So they have plenty of room to maneuver if some veterans get released by other teams. I don't think this roster is anywhere close to what it's going to look like opening day. I think there's going to be some additions via the waiver wire. And I do think at some point you're going to see some free agent additions added to this roster as well.
Yeah, Parham, I guess they had some fumble snaps with Carr this week. And just that he's snapping the ball to Carr is news in itself, because, Andre James played every game at center last year. but we know that just looking at Parham's measurables for the National Football League, that he's a guy who looks like he just has that build of a center. And with his athleticism, that's probably the best spot for him. Not saying he'll get a red shirt this year or anything like that, but I do think that, he could play some guard, but I mean, the guy is really kind of best suited for that center, and he could really be with his physical tools could really be an outstanding center.
Yeah, ideally the Raiders identify the 5 best guys and they start 17 games and we don't have any injuries and guys that miss time. But I do think Parham will get some snaps this year, whether that's at center or right guard is up to the interpretation of what happens with the guys in front of them. So it's going to be based on injuries, but they're cross-training all these guys. I do think he still has a chance to unseat Andre James at center. I'm not convinced that Andre James is going to make this roster. I still think there's a chance that he could be a casualty when we come to the 53 as well, as long as Parham shows that he can handle it. But this offensive line is probably going to look differently than we all think come opening day, because there's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot of guys that have similar abilities, but no one's really standing out other than Colton Miller.
Yeah. So I'm glad Devontae Adams today had clarified his statement, because so everybody can calm down. So what was really, he was making a statement saying, even if you went from Hall of Fame quarterback to Hall of Fame quarterback, there's going to be a difference in the quarter and and getting used to that quarterback, and not that Derek Carr was a Hall of Fame quarterback. So he did clarify that today. So everybody can stop printing that and going nuts nuts about that in Raiderland. I know that's his boy, but I really don't think he was saying that Derek Carr is a Hall of Fame quarterback. And if he wins three straight titles, hey, I'll be the first one I can to give him that to put him in there.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
He did clarify that he said he wasn't going to say he's not a Hall of Famer. So
yeah,
there's still a chance in his mind, and like you said, there could be if he wins a couple of Super Bowls and he plays another 7-8 years and puts up good numbers. There's an argument to be made there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not even greedy. Just give me one. Just give me one.
He has to win, though.
He has to win. He has to win. I mean, he has to win. Like this whole, you can go back and forth with Paul Gutierrez and everything like that. That's fine. And Josh Dubois, but if you don't win, you give those guys ammunition. So we gotta make sure you win football games. As far as that goes, in the it's time to panic category, are we panicking on what's going on with Bilal Nichols and Jonathan Hankins here? I mean, or is this just like, hey, 2 veterans, it's the beginning of camp, let's not worry about that, and they'll be ready to go when the season starts?
Well, it depends on what the injuries are, because they're undisclosed. We don't know what the injuries are that put these guys on PUP. Now, we have to remember the Raiders open up before anybody, and they have 1 extra preseason game. So most teams don't open up to the middle of next week. If these guys aren't practicing, I'd say after the 2nd preseason game, getting ready for that 3rd preseason game, then we can hit the panic button, because there's not a lot of depth behind those 2 guys. You got a couple of rookies and then some has-been free agents like Vernon Butler, Andre Billings, Kyle Pecco, or Andrew Billings, not guys that are world beaters by any stretch of the imagination, Tyler Lancaster. So if those guys aren't practicing, I would say after the Vikings game, then it's time to hit the panic button.
Yeah, it sounds like the guys you mentioned, like Pecco, like Pecco and Pecco, Billings, and Butler, are not the ones getting burned. The guys who are getting burned right now is Lancaster, Butler, and Farrell. So that could just be like, let's see what the young dudes got, because it just makes sense to play the young dudes right now. We've seen enough tape of the other defensive tackles as far as that goes. And another guy Kendall Vickers, who just doesn't seem to ever go away. So Kendall Vickers always finds a way to be on this roster as well. So we have to see if that continues as well. So
I would add that
the
pads haven't come on yet. So we'll see
week,
when the pads go on next week. So we can talk about these guys all we want right now, running around in shorts, but it doesn't matter till the pads go on.
That's the big thing that the coach was talking about today. Josh McDaniels is like, we won't know until pads go on, and he talked a big thing about can you shed blocks and do all those things at the defensive tackle position, and we'll see if they can do that when they get pads on. That's going to be a huge part of what takes place there with the Raiders. Let's see what else. Trayvon Mullen again. Oh, sorry about him being on the PUP. That's another guy. Like I said, like if he's not on the field soon, not in the field in a couple of weeks, then you worry about that as well too, right?
Yeah, this is 3 starters we're talking about. Nichols, Hankins, and Mullen are all expected to be starters on this defense. And I'd be more concerned about Mullen. It's a foot injury. He's a corner. The Raiders haven't gone out and signed another corner since he's had the surgery, so I don't think they're too worried about this. If they run out and they sign Joe Hayden or someone in the next week or two, then you know that there is an issue here with his foot that could be long-term. But until they go out and sign someone to fill one of these jobs, I'm not too concerned about it until we get to, like I said, after the Vikings game. We get to August 15th. 2.5 weeks from now, and none of these 3 guys are practicing, and then there's a real probability they may end up missing the first, 5 or 6 weeks of the year, however that's designated with the PUP list.
So you did text me earlier about some reports out of some wide receivers are doing pretty well today. Looks like Keenan Cole because kind of found his footing there right now. I know it's only drills, but I mean, you can look bad in drills too. So if he's looking good in drills, that's always a good thing as well, right?
Yeah, it's good. I think Levi Edwards with Raiders.com had an article today talking about how Keenan Cole had a pretty good practice, created a lot of separation on 11-on-11 and even 7-on-7 drills. And he also mentioned yards after the catch. So getting the ball, short of line of scrimmage and making plays after. And then you have the beat writers, Tashawn Reed, Vic Tafer talking about Matt Collins. So it sounds like both of those guys are having pretty good camps, which is good for the Raiders so far. We'll see when the pads go on. Out of those 2, probably Cole would have a slight edge just based on the production that he's had in the league at previous stops. But Matt Collins sounds like he's having a pretty good camp too. And Josh Jacobs even came out and said he's never seen anyone learn the playbook as fast as Matt Collins has. So I think both of those guys are going to get some run. We haven't heard anything about Demarcus Robinson, which is kind of concerning. As well out of that group, but it sounds like 2 of the 3 of those free agent additions are playing well.
Yeah, I mean, he I think he has some positive things to say about DeMarcus today, but it's nothing like that's like he's saying he's on the team right now, so he's not gonna dog him out right now. He's just when he's ready to move on from him, he'll move on from him if he doesn't make the team. But it sounds like those guys. Sounds like he's playing. It sounds like he's playing. Mac Jones is the guy who is catching some eyes, and so is Keenan Cole. I think Levi also mentioned that Sam Webb has kind of caught his eye at corner as well too. That was kind of one of our guys, the undrafted free agents.
That was my guy.
Yeah, the undrafted free agents who make the team. You would think anybody who can play corner, if you show anything on this team, you have a chance to make it. And listen, everybody talked about how J.C. Jackson was this, J.C. Jackson is that. J.C. Jackson was also an undrafted free agent. So it wasn't like he was a guy who was number 1 pick, in the first round. So this team, the guys who run this team know how to find players, players like that. So that's always a good sign there. Isaiah Zuba was on the Patriots last year. Looks like a guy who can return punts. We talk about, like I said, we always talk about special teams on this program, probably more so than anybody else. But listen, 13 can't be back there. Like he's just literally too valuable to have back there in special teams, and they're gonna do whatever they can, whether it's Keenan Cole or whether it's Zuba. Somebody's gonna return kicks. I can see maybe in a big spot having having Hunter Renfrow return some kicks, but you can't have him do it on a consistent basis.
No, I dug into that Zuber once you mentioned him to me today, and he returned kicks in the USFL. He hasn't returned a ton of punts. He's returned 11 punts dating back to his college days, but did have some run as a kick returner, had 18 kick returns this year along with 42 in the USFL. What I noticed is he's bounced around quite a bit. Patriots, undrafted free agent 2020, ended up in their practice squad. Last year he was with 3 teams on the practice squad. It was the 49ers, Browns, and Jets. He had 0 special team snaps with the Patriots, but I'm looking at some depth charts around. Darius Phillips is actually listed as the Raiders punt returner on our lads. So I don't know what kind of punt return ability he has, but that would be interesting if that cornerback could pick up some of those punt returns. But they can't have Hunter Renfrow back there. You cannot lose him in this offense.
You can't.
Off a punt return.
No, he's just way too valuable. as far as that goes. So before we go into anything else with the current Raiders, did you get a chance to watch the Demarcus Russell thing, the Russell interview?
No, I read some of the highlights from it. I didn't have a ton of interest in listening to Marcus Russell, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
I thought some of the comments that I saw were pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I get, to me, it's more like the lines of like it's just the Raiders are not, they're run uniquely, but especially when he was there. Can he say he did everything humanly possible to be the best quarterback he could have? I mean, I don't think that's necessarily accurate to say that part of it. Like, I don't know if that's something that he could honestly say. I mean, I understand about the whole tape thing, and he was like, "Oh, they never did that to me. They never did that to me at LSU. Why are we doing that to me now? I'm supposed to be helping me, all the stuff like that." But it's just like nobody. It's hard when you're number one pick of all. When you're the number one pick, and you are in that situation, nobody's really gonna have like the tears for, or like kind of feel bad for Demarcus Russell in this situation.
Now, to me, he didn't take any accountability for what happened to his career. He wanted to blame everyone else. And to me, he had an opportunity to come out and basically say, I didn't do the most that I could have with my abilities. I could have done this. I could have done that. And look in the mirror. It was more like, I'm going to blame everyone around me for everything that went bad. He blamed the coaches. He blamed the organization. He blamed a bunch of people. The two quotes I wrote down, these ones surprised me. He said, like, I watch film, but I ain't the type to watch 5 hours of film. So we know that he wasn't watching film. For him to say, I watch 5 hours of film, you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. You should be watching a ton of film every week on all the tendencies, down and distance, figuring out the different coverages, what's unique to one team and the other. This dude wasn't watching film. And then the other quote I saw was, none of these coaches wanted me in the first place. Only Al Davis wanted me. So he's basically just looking for an out. And, like I said, I didn't hear the interview. I read an article that broke down some of the comments in the interview. Yeah. And I came away not feeling bad for Demarcus Russell at all. And he got what he deserved with his career. Touching on Darius Phillips, so I just looked him up, 25 punt returns last year in Cincinnati. This guy does have punt return experience.
So they have a lot of options here as far as like the special teams and as far as kicking game, the kickoff and that. And kickoffs I'm not even really worried about because kickoffs are going to be
out of the end zone.
Yeah, it's going out of the end zone anyway. So who cares about the kickoffs? But unless you're on the Raiders after a score last year, like every time the Raiders scored, they kicked it short every time. So in Green Bay, you'll see that tendency from Bisaccia every single time the Packers score a touchdown or a field goal, as far as that goes. Surprise for 50-man, for 53-man. Anybody on that list kind of you think? I mean, we talked about Webb. That could be practice squad, or that could be somebody who makes the team. What are we thinking about as far as like practice guys who might surprise us here?
Yeah, I think you got to look along the offensive line. I think someone might stand out there. Just, kind of reading between the tea leaves. I don't think this is a new regime, so they didn't draft most of these guys. So they could easily move on from a fan favorite, a guy that gives them versatility. As far as an undrafted guy against Samson, I'm not going to say there's one. I would lean more towards like Alex Bars, as a free agent, not getting any publicity right now, but he has a connection to Champ Kelly from Chicago. He comes over, he can play 3 interior spots and do special teams as far as being along line. So
can he play tackle?
No, he's an interior guy. He's going to be guard and center.
Okay.
So they're not the same player, but kind of the same position as Parham. It's going to be the backup interior guy on the inside. So I could see them moving on. That's why when I said I don't know if Denzel Good's going to be on this team, maybe they like Parham, maybe they like Alex Bars. You can only have so many backup interior offensive linemen, especially if they keep Illuminor and they want to move Leatherwood back inside. And you have Simpson, you have Cotton. Maybe they want to keep Cotton. So I think one of these linemen is going to be on the out that we're not talking about. As far as undrafted guys, I've heard a lot of run for the Butler, the linebacker out of Arizona State, because of the ties, obviously, to Antonio Pierce, special teams abilities. But if anyone's going to make it, it's going to be special teams. I like Sam Webb. You brought him up. To me, he has all the measurables. He was just playing at a small school. I think he went to Missouri State. So it's like he's big, he's long, he can run. Now he just needs reps. Now, you can get him onto a squad, have him play, be your 5th corner, and get him out there on special teams. Do one of these linebackers impress? Luke Masterson, perhaps. I haven't heard a lot about him. Does Isaiah Palomao from USC. Does he do anything? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe maybe he's a matchup with a tight end. They find a niche for him. But it's going to be special teams, and that's kind of that extra preseason game for a lot of people are going to turn it off in the first quarter. I'm going to be watching to see who's playing special teams and who's doing what, and then obviously what's the rotation, who's getting a lot of run and who's not. Because we like these guys that put up numbers in the preseason, but the guys that play a ton of snaps in the preseason are usually guys that aren't going to make the team.
Yeah, exactly. That we find out over the years that the guys who are making making these plays here and there, I mean, the Chris Warrens of the world don't end up making the squad at all because they just can't do it. They can't do it. 718 Jay wants to know how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the backup quarterback position? Should be interesting to see what happens in the backup quarterback position. I feel like it's pretty much maybe Mullins and then Garbers is going to be somebody to be maybe practice squad. I don't think Stidham has not looked good, I guess, from what everybody's been saying. So we'll have to see if, even though his knowledge of the playbook and all stuff like that, he's not played. I guess he hasn't played well so far, as for what people have been saying. So, but Nick Mullins has a ton of experience actually playing in games because he played in San Francisco. He actually played last year in Cleveland when they had injuries there as well. So we'll have to see how quickly he picks up that playbook. What do you feel about the backup quarterback's position?
Yeah, this is tough for me because I think they might actually try to keep Mullins and Stidham, because if you look at the big picture, Stidham knows the offense. He's a free agent after this year, but if they try to get him on the practice squad, they probably can. But the issue is going to be the first quarterback or two that goes down in the league, they're going to go right to Stidham, circle that name, and someone's going to sign him right off the practice squad. So if McDaniels does like him, and they did trade for him when they didn't need to, I think that push comes to shove, I think they're going to keep Mullins and Stidham on this roster. Hopefully neither one of them play. Hopefully we see Derek Carr for 17 games and this team goes to the playoffs. But I have a sneaky suspicion that they would keep both of those guys, because I don't think you can get away with Stidham on the practice squad for most of the season, unless he just stinks up the joint and McDaniel says, we're just going to see if we can get him through waivers, and if someone wants to claim him, they can claim him. But I have a hard time thinking 17 weeks go by in this league with all the injuries you see a quarterback, and Stidham just sits on the practice squad. Someone's going to try to sign him.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's see, Mike from San Diego wants to know about the third wide receiver. I mean, the battle's on right now. The battle's on for that third wide receiver. You got Keelan Cole, you got Tyron Johnson, who the coach talked about today. Just like, he's putting in a lot of really good work, and he's tremendously quick, and he's tremendously fast. Can play special teams. Matt Collins is there. Like you said, I haven't heard much about Demarcus Robinson, but we'll see. DJ Turner is there, all the people like that. So I'm not sure how many receivers they're gonna take, but I would think that Matt Collins is definitely gonna be. I keep calling him Collins, it's Hollins. Matt Collins is gonna be there with Keenan Cole, and everybody else is. If anybody else makes it, they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be lucky to find any kind of repetition with the first team in these games.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see much of either one of these guys in the preseason, to be honest with you. I think they're both locks to make the roster. This, to me, could end up being kind of like the running back room. This might be week to week based on matchups, who the corners are on the outside. Do they want to go with Cole that week? Is he a better matchup, or is Hollins a better matchup? I could see these guys getting equal run until one clearly separates from the other. I don't think right now you can say, well, one of these guys is definitely going to beat out the other one, and he's going to get 85% of the snaps outside. I think it's too close to call. I like Jordan Vesey a little bit too. We'll see what he does. They signed him from Texas, big physical, outside receiver. The Raiders are not lacking for physical size outside with Hollins and Vesey. And then even be able to put Waller and Adams out there. So that's something that they haven't had recently in the red zone. Maybe Cole gets a lot of reps in between the 20s, and you get the red zone, then it's Hollins. There's going to be a lot of mixing and matching here, because I don't think either one of these guys is, a good number two option. I think together they can make a good number two, and it's just going to be interesting to see which packages they're in and then how they utilize them.
Yeah. Questions about the running back room. I mean, my thing about the running back room to me is like, I do think Josh gets the majority of the burn. I do think as the season goes along, you're gonna see Zamir play a little bit. You're gonna see some carries by him. I could definitely see, when you use Kenyon Drake in that passing game, he can create some unique matchups. You saw in that Denver game last year, but they didn't really go to it as much as I thought they would after that Denver game, because he was great out of the backfield catching passes, and we know what James White was able to do with the Patriots for years in that passing back situation with the Patriots. What are your thoughts about the running back room? I mean, it looks like it's Josh. Josh is the best running back in this group, but I would definitely say that I think that sometimes you're gonna see Zamir get some carries here along with Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, Jacobs is going to get the majority of reps early. It's good to hear the encouraging reports about Drake coming off that lower leg injury. That sounds like he's explosive in camp and he's running well. Zamir White hasn't practiced the last 2 days, so he's got an injury that we don't know what it is. Hopefully, it's not going to keep him out very long. I could see Amir Abdullah making this team as a potential special teams kick returner as well, if they're not settled on some of the other options. But I think Brandon Bolden's going to be the unsung hero here. He's going to play some on third down. He's going to get some short yardage carries. He's going to play special teams. I like the group overall, but I think at the end of the day, this is Josh Jacobs. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to have a big year because he's not going to want to come off the field. He's going to have a couple of those games where he gets 5 carries and they're mixing it up with everyone else. And then when he gets his run the next week, he's going to go off. So I think Josh Jacobs is playing for a contract, and he probably has a chip on his shoulder because his new regime came in and basically said, we're going to blow up this running rec room and bring all these guys in to compete around you and not come in and give Jacobs the respect he probably thinks he deserves. I
think also too, I think he still, like, if you remember when LeGarrette Blount first came to the Bucks, he would really kind of fight the ball when he was trying to catch the ball with his hands. And I think Josh Jacobs is slowly but surely getting to become more of a reliable pass catcher as well. I think he made some, especially in that first drive in the Indianapolis game, some balls in the flat. It looked like 3 or 4 yard gains, but with his ability to make people miss, he got first downs out of it. Like he can, once he gets the ball in his hands, he's not easy to get down with one guy. So, I mean, one of the league leaders in missed tackles all the time. So I'm all for him in his offense. I think it's more of it's going to be more of an organized situation as far as running the football here with this team. And you have to be, I think this is first game of the year. You can drop back 40 times if you want to with Bosa and Mac on the on the other side, but I think they're going to run the football a lot in this game. I think they're going to make the Chargers, and it's too far away to talk about game planning, but like it just seems obvious to like, hey, let's see if they can stop the run because they couldn't stop it last year. And if you want to run the football, this is the good opportunity to get to a good start against the Chargers. And throw screens, slow down that pass. We're going to see screens this year, which the Raiders hadn't seen in a while. But yeah, they're going to need to run the football week 1 for sure. You can't drop back with the state of the offensive line. If it's going to be Parker or Leatherwood out there week 1, you can't leave them on an island versus Bosa or Max. So they're going to have to game plan that in. Which one of these guys is going to pass block? That's going to be the question too, because probably Bolden's the best pass blocker out of the entire group. So I would expect to see him early in the season on third downs. Kenyon Drake will get some design plays for him at the right times. And they may just go with the hot hand when they may get rolling in a game. And if a guy's hot, leave him in. Yeah. So and then it's going to look interesting. But don't draft any of these guys early on your fantasy teams, basically what we're saying. Yeah. Don't stay. If you got to, if you're looking to like piggyback him later on, Josh Jacobs, you can, but I don't think that this is these backs that with the Raiders will be guys who you'd be looking to draft it as far as that goes. Questions about James wants to know questions about the contracts of Perryman and Waller. So I think Waller is putting himself in a position where he's I think mentally able to handle just going out and playing and not making it a big deal. He has put his trust in his management to get a deal done. And I think, if the deal isn't done, then the deal isn't done. I mean, he wants to stay, but I mean, it's going to be, he wants to get paid like a top 3 tight end. So, I mean, I'm not sure what some of the other guys are making as far as like, I know Travis Kelce's contract got dwarfed. Like I think Kittle, was it Kelce? Then I think it was Kelce, then Kittle, but he wants big money. And with his ability, I can't say I blame him, but we'll see what happens as far as that goes. What do you think about the contract? So I know Perryman wants to get a new deal, and so does Darren Waller.
Yeah, Waller's saying the right things, that he's just going to go out there and play and let it take care of itself. And I think the Raiders do ultimately find a way to keep him around. He's too valuable a piece of this offense. They're going to use resources at that tight end position, but it's going to cost you another position, which I think is going to be running back. I don't think they're going to pour a ton of money, because you got to think that Jacobs and Drake probably aren't on this roster next year, barring something unforeseen happening. That's going to open up some money. You divert that over. They have cap room right now to extend him. It's going to be an issue of cash on hand to do that. Perriman's a little more interesting to me, because Perriman didn't get a lot of run as a free agent. Carolina basically shipped him out before, his first training camp ended there, shipped him to the Raiders last year. He was on like a 2-year, I want to say $7 million deal. It wasn't a big deal. So he didn't have a huge number of suitors the last time when he was 2 years younger. He did make the Pro Bowl, but how does he fit this defense? I think it's going to be up to Patrick Graham. If they're okay with his pass coverage ability and they can find matchups to kind of cover some of that liability, and they want to keep him around for leadership long-term, they'll send him. I don't think it's going to be a very expensive contract. You're not going to divert, again, a ton of resources into that inside linebacker position, because they're going to be playing a lot of nickel. And then they obviously play some dime there in the Patrick Graham defense. But if they can get him signed and he's a reasonable amount, maybe a 2-3 year extension, somewhere around $4 million. If you can get like 3-year, $12 million deal, $6 to $7 million guaranteed, I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't want to spend $5-6 million a year on him. I wouldn't want to go 3 years, $18 million or anything like that. But you could probably get a pretty cheap deal done, being he's a 2-down inside linebacker for the most part.
Would he be, if Mayock was there, wouldn't it be it wouldn't be $7 million a year? It'd be $7 million a year if Mayock was there.
No, not Littleton, not Kwiatkowski, not those kind of deals.
Green would say, sign him. He's a grinder. Sign him. Everybody was really impressed with Rock Yassin. His biceps at the. I can't remember talking about his biceps at the damn press conference. But listen, the guy has he has a golden opportunity. I mean, this is a golden opportunity to really kind of cash in too as well. He talked about the trade was made for him and Ngakoue, and now he has a chance to be a starter in a division with a bunch of receivers. If he has a big year this year, I mean, he and Everett can really kind of solidify themselves. We had thoughts about, and getting questions about those two, and then also Amik Robinson here.
Yeah, the first touchdown that Yassin gives up this year, we're not going to be talking about his biceps anymore. We're going to be talking about how it was lapse in coverage.
Yes.
So, it's fodder at this point, but like you said, he has a chance to establish himself as hopefully, a top 15 or top 20 corner in this league this year, which would result in a nice payday next year when he hits free agency. He's going to get every opportunity right now, especially with Trayvon Mullen on the PUP. Yassin's the best corner on the roster, and there's a large gap between him and the next healthy guy, which is probably Everett. But Everett is probably, he's good in man. He's good playing a little bit more press. He's not a physical guy. I don't know what he's going to give you if he's got to be the force player on run defense, but he can play some man and some packages they need him to. He held up okay last year in Baltimore, but I don't think he's a guy you want to run out there and play every snap for 17 weeks. He's a nice depth corner. And then Robertson, we'll see. You're hearing good things out of the mini camps. Haven't heard him much once training camp started, but again, the pads haven't come on. But he's a feisty guy that's going to compete. He does have his limitations due to his size, but we haven't seen the Robertson we saw on film in college show up yet in the NFL. So hopefully that happens, this year in training camp. And then as we get into the regular season, I think he's got a good chance to make this team. They're going to keep some corners. They don't have a ton of depth. And then can he be that corner that can play inside, outside? Can he move over and play some safety and some dime packages when you need him to? What's he going to do on special teams? He's going to have to answer all those questions, because he's going to have versatility. He can't just be an outside corner at 5'8" or 5'9".
No, because with this team and this regime, versatility is the name of the game. Like, I mean, it's the Pat coaching staffs from New England, they have always had a bunch of guys who can do a lot of different things. So you're gonna have to be able to do a lot of different things to stay on the roster, and be able to do that as well. Mums, is Gillespie practicing?
I haven't heard his name at all. We were hearing a lot about Harmon. And obviously Abram got in a collision today. with another defensive back. The name's skipping me of who he ran into today, but he had to come off the field and didn't finish practice. But you're hearing a lot about Harmon. I haven't heard anything about Gillespie.
That's a great mystery. That could either be hiding somebody behind a tree or something. But I haven't even heard even a question about him. So
we're going to see him in the preseason quite a bit, though. I think he's going to get a chance to show what he can do.
We're going to see what happens there. As far as the Diablo, is he still hurt? Is he still?
No, he's playing.
He's playing now. So we got him out there.
Yeah.
There's no, and I know people talked about what's his name?
Brown, the other linebacker, Jayon Brown.
Not Brown, just Jayon Brown, but Butler. No, but Malcolm Kuntz was being spoken about. Chandler Jones was talking about him because like there's very few football players from New York, and he was talking about how he was talking to him about improving himself and getting better at a pass rush and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with Malcolm Kuntz. Malcolm Kuntz is, you have to have a depth at rusher, outside rusher. We'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of clips of him with his spin move being stopped in the middle of it, and his back is to the offensive lineman last year. So hopefully that kind of gets improved from last year to this year. I wouldn't expect huge things. This pass rush, this defense is about Crosby and about Jones getting to the quarterback on third and long. So they're ready to do whatever they can to get into third and long and get those guys going. As far as that goes. On the defensive, okay, go ahead. Yeah, I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say on Kuntz, like it's kind of interesting. He's gonna have to be that sub package rusher, but how much can he really learn from Crosby and Jones? They're different body types with length that do it differently than Malcolm Kuntz is going to have to do it. Malcolm Kuntz can't do the same things that Max Crosby and Chandler Jones can physically. So he's going to have to win with speed, and he's going to have to win with quickness and get those offensive tackles' hands off of him quickly. Because once they engage on him, he's not a powerful guy. He's not going to be able to separate and dislodge from some of those blocks. So maybe they use him differently in schemes. Maybe he blitzes from a stand-up position on the outside. It's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate him. Does he blitz from the interior? Do they loop him around? So I'm curious to see what happens with Kuntz. But I've heard some people say, well, he's got Crosby and he's got Jones. Like, he's learning from two of the best. But to me, like, those are, like I said, different body types, long, lengthy guys that are doing things that Malcolm Kuntz just can't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I hear no lies. And
I like Malcolm Kuntz, and I think he's going to be good. But I think that's kind of overspoken.
Yeah. On this defensive, the best as you break this defense up, the unit you have the most confidence in when healthy, the D line.
When healthy.
Yeah, they gotta be D-line.
I would say, well, if you want to count those guys as outside rushers, linebackers, because Jones and Crosby are. But yeah, I'd say the pass rush, those two in guys, and then obviously with Fackrell and Kuntz, I'm pretty satisfied with them. I do like the initial, the four interior linebackers. With healthy, you have Perryman, Brown, Diablo, and Kenny Young. That's a pretty good group inside as well. So the question is going to be the secondary. I've heard a lot of talking heads on TV. Mike Tannenbaum was all over ESPN last year, trashing the Raiders secondary about how they only had 6 interceptions last year and they're going to finish dead last. And well, it was a completely different scheme they played last year. They played a lot of cover 3 where the corners, Gabe Cushion was on the outside. They weren't very aggressive. They didn't blitz. So to say, well, they only had 6 interceptions last year, I think is a misrepresentation of what this defense can be this year, because they have that extra outside pass rusher. They have some different players in the secondary. Trayvon Merrick's got an extra year of experience. Rock Ya-Sin might get some interceptions, and they didn't have Trayvon Mullen. I mean, they were running out Desmond Trufant last year. They were running out Brandon Faison a lot. They were signing guys off the street and throwing jerseys on them to go play corner. So I think that the secondary is going to be overlooked a little bit. At some point or another, these guys have to produce on the football field, and we just haven't seen the secondary do a ton of that over the last 5-10 years.
And maybe even when everybody's healthy on this secondary, they still go up and sign somebody because they just need a veteran there. As far as that goes, I'm just kind of a little bit worried about. I like the linebackers a lot. I do like this linebacker core a lot with this team, but the secondary does kind of worry me a little bit. But you know, it's all about, you know, they want to, like, we how many times did we watch a game last year and just like texting back and forth and just wanting to be like, not, you're seeing people just kind of roam free in that cover three. Like, you know what's opening in the cover three consistently. So, and that's Gus Bradley. This is Patrick Graham. It's two different things, but it was just kind of it was kind of frustrating to watch that. I mean, he was running out last year. Patrick Graham was having Leonard Williams. He's the Leonard Williams playing defensive end last year just to get some sort of pass rush. So now with the kind of the mix of guys he has now to get a pass rush, I think the Raiders will be in better shape than the Giants were last year. Plus, you know, I think you cannot be a fan of Derek Carr, but we also know you're not a fan of Daniel Jones. You can't be a fan of Daniel Jones in any way, in any capacity whatsoever, as far as that goes. Let's see here. I think one question about the offense, about the tight ends, and I guess the tight ends is going to be Waller. I think it's interesting to me because, like, you know, you do want to have some kind of blocking sense in that in that two tight end personnel grouping, and I'm not sure if you have that when you have, I mean, Moreau on the field. Moreau kind of got blown up a little bit on many occasions last year. I'm just trying to be kind.
Bowers would be that guy if they
Bowers
keep
would
him.
be that guy. Bowers would be that guy. So, and then Jacob Hollister is another pass catching tight end as well, right? So
Yeah.
And so, so I think Bowers might have a safe route to be on this team because he's probably the best blocking tight end they have. I think that's pretty much, yeah. And I know they have that Cole, Cole Foringham from Utah, but he's a rookie, so I don't know. I'm not sure about what he's gonna do when they want to go power. Like, are you kind of worried about that tight end situation there?
Yeah, I think that if they don't like Bowers, I think that answer is going to be on the waiver wire because you can go get blocking tight ends
All the time.
I'm not sold on Moreau, Hollister, Horsted, or the rookie Forthingham is being that guy, that traditional inline blocking tight end when you want to move Waller out or even want to go 12 personnel and go two tight ends. So it's going to be up to Moreau. He's going to have to earn it, but his tape last year as a blocker was not up to par. So it's up to him to improve. If not, I could easily see this team adding a tight end at cut down day.
Yeah, they gotta do something as far as that goes. Just scrolling to see if anything else is here. It's good to see, I mean, so Cliff go. It kind of stinks that Cliff goes in with not being here to see it.
Yeah.
But that kind of seems to happen a little bit with some of these Hall of Famers sometimes. But good to see that. It's gonna be cool to see a lot of old school Raider fans and the president Raider fans go up to Canton and kind of go out there and cheer that on. It's gonna be cool to see on the next week, right? Next week,
Yeah.
Next week is gonna be that first game, so that should be fun as far as that goes. So we're gonna let you go unless you have anything else, Ryan, for the Raiders, Raiders training camp edition here.
Just a couple quick notes on. You asked me to think about keys to what a good
Oh yeah,
camp would look like.
there you go.
Just quick things that popped in my head. Number one, get to the starting line, injury free, no major injuries. I don't care if they lose all 4 preseason games. Show up week 1 with your full roster at your disposal. Number 2, determine the 5 best offensive linemen. Doesn't matter what that mix and match is. Just get the 5 best guys out there. And some personal things that I'd like to see, what kind of personnel groupings, like make sure these guys are communicating properly. Are they going to be ability to run up tempo, no huddle early in the season? Is Derek Carr going to be able to come up the line and go fast when he wants to go fast? Or is this going to be slow in the huddle and we're just yelling at the TV, pick it up? I don't know. And then the biggest thing to me on defense, the back end communication. This is going to be a much different defense than they played last year, where guys are going to have to be communicating on the fly based on looks and motions. Can these guys who haven't played in this defense with Patrick Graham before get on the same page early? Because they're going to have to be. You're coming out with Justin Herbert week 1. We can't have blown assignments, blown coverages, and the schedule doesn't get easy. So those are kind of the things. Make sure the communication up front and then on the back end are up to par. And the biggest thing, just don't have any injuries. Like I said, I don't care if they lose all 4 preseason games. It doesn't matter.
No, and the preseason game is not going to matter at all. I think you talked about the best 5 offensive linemen. I think Coach McDaniels did say today about just constantly having different people, different groupings on the offensive line. So people are constantly communicating with different people all the time, just in case of injury, just in case all that stuff happens. I think that's something that's really important. I mean, you could have somebody like Denzel Good, who they counted on all last year to be helping
Leatherwood.
or Leatherwood, and in the first drive, he's gone for the entire year. So who knows how much that hurt his development as well. So those kind of things. I mean, just kind of thinking outside the box. I kind of feel like this is what this organization is doing now. Kind of preparing for all kind of things, and we'll see next week when the pads go on. And then when the pads go on, when they face the Jaguars, there are a whole lot to talk about as far as that goes. Whenever you see teams play, you're going to see Derek Carr and everybody with no pads on, just getting interviewed by whoever's doing the game, NBC or whatever. But for the most part, it's still going to be good to see the Raiders get take the field and kind of see what some of these guys can do in when the bullets fly, because this is their life. This is going to be a livelihood. If they're going to make the team, they're going to have to come out and make some plays and make a big impression on this team, because I don't think this GM and this head coach they're not playing favorites. They just want to win, and they're going to put the best guys on the field, and that's all that's going to matter, right?
No, definitely. It's just win, baby, is the motto. But that's all this regime wants to do. I don't think they care how they do it, as long as they win. And the other thing I think we're going to see, if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say Tom Brady played a lot in the preseason. Like, he played a drive or two in almost every game. He played in the last game usually. I don't know how much they're going to run Derek Carr out there, but I would expect, the offensive linemen, I think, are going to get some pretty good work. Probably not this next first game against the Jaguars, because they have an extra game. These guys might play a quarter or a half in preseason game 2 and 3, and I could even see these guys playing in the fourth game too. So some of the stars won't, but I think we're going to see more starters than normal, because John Gruden just didn't play any of them, really. Yeah. So I think, unless McDaniels changes what they did in New England, I think you're going to see them play. But at the end of the day, the motto "just win, Beatty" is what it is, and they're going to have to do that, because they're going to have to get to 10, hopefully 11 wins to make the playoffs. I don't think in the AFC, especially the AFC West, that you can go 9-8 in a 17-game season and expect to make the playoffs. That might be 4th place in the AFC West. So got to get to double-digit wins.
Yeah, I think 11 wins is the key, and I think that you got to start off. I think 3-3 in the division is like where you can't get lower than that. And I also think that if you win the first half of some of these games, you win if you beat the Broncos first, you beat the Chargers first, and then you put yourself in a position where you can sweep one of these teams. Put the pressure when that first game against the Broncos, against the Chargers, and then you put pressure on the next game where you could possibly sweep them going down the road here when the season starts. But that's it. Put on Waivers podcast. We're gonna take a quick break. I am gonna be taking a flight to Puerto Rico. That's gonna be nuts. I wish I did it later in the year so I could see Puerto Rican baseball, because I'm sure that's like, I don't know if you ever saw Puerto Rican baseball in Puerto Rico, but I heard it's just like incredible. So I'm gonna miss that. And we all know, I'm probably gonna need a vacation from my family's vacation. We know how that goes. But it should be a good time. Not the best flyer in the world, but it should be fun. All right, Ryan, take care. We'll see you next time, brother.
All right, take care.